How are you doing, YouTube? It's your friendly gamer SmartEntity here. Today we're going to have a look at a 4 format. So strictly speaking 5 polarity. We do have the reverse D polarity on there, so it's 6 polarity on here, but strictly speaking it's a 5 polarity build for the Telos Akbolto. So the build I have shown here is clearly a standard tower build: Hornet Strike, Bardas Fusion, Lethal Torrent, Jolt and Pistol Pestilence for corrosive, more toxic, more electricity for more corrosive, and heated charge for the 90% extra heat damage. So as usual, we've copied the build over to Warframe Builder here, and the numbers pretty much reflect what I've experienced in-game. In other words, it's not that impressive. It is definitely a top tier weapon, it's worth the potato, it's worth the Formas. But that aside, as far as Syndicate weapons goes, there are quite a few that are better than this weapon, but as far as general secondary weapons goes, the Telos Akbolto is definitely up there. So with a total damage of just over 2400 and a sustained DPS of about 16,000, it's okay for, I guess, 40 minute-ish T4 survival or 30 wave, 40 wave T4 defense, but it's not a weapon I will use over 60 minute T4 survival. And just as a reference point, we'll have a look at the brag. So this is a video that I uploaded a while back on the 5 Forma Cyanoid Gamma Core weapon. And I just want to say a big thank you to all the people that have pointed out the build I presented with a Gamma Core was not the highest DPS. With a Gamma Core, you do actually want to use Gunslinger as well as, I think it's Anemic Agility. Basically the corrupted fire rate mod to obtain best or top DPS with that weapon. So that aside, we'll have a look at the brag. So this is the build I put in Warframe Builder a while back on the brag, and the sustained DPS for the brag is over 24.5 thousand. Now, if you had a look at the Gamma Core video that I uploaded, the brag was actually outmatched quite a bit by the Gamma Core. Granted, the brag as a short-range weapon is completely different to the Telos Akbolto, but it is a secondary weapon that I like to compare newly released weapons to, just because for the longest period of time, the brag was the best secondary. Alrighty, so we'll do a bit of gameplay here. I'm on the Fleeting Foot Tactical Alert mission right now. It's the 700 Conclave, so nothing too special, but the point of this mission, or this run through, just to have a look at the Telos Akbolto gameplay. Now, of course, I am using the tower build, so do keep that in mind. So one thing to notice with this particular weapon, there is a traveling time. It's not unlike the Bolter Prime. You do get a traveling time, and the recoil for this weapon is quite significant if you do fire a high rate. Now, one thing that is common knowledge, but I feel I should point out, is to really optimally use this weapon, you actually want to change your settings as far as firing goes. So what you want to do is go to your options, I think it's customized key bindings, for your fire weapon. So the first option you want to go forward or mouse wheel up, and for the second one you want to go mouse wheel down. And what that effectively does is it allows you to use the Telos Akbolto's firing rate to its max potential. So do a bit of reload here. And so if you have a look now, so that's 30 bullets gone literally within, what, 2-3 seconds or so? And as you can see at the bottom right hand corner, the ammo economy is not the best with this weapon. Now, despite that, personally, as far as general gameplay goes, I still like to just use your left mouse button as the firing, just because I've been using Misa a lot, and to use her number 4 power properly, you do need the left mouse button, because you can just hold that down, being a automatic weapon, the regulators. So to be fair, in this particular mission, we are facing enemies about level, I guess, 15 to 20-ish. And we just had a napalm there at level 17, and it took about 2 shots to kill napalm. So that's pretty decent. With basic enemies, of course, we can one-shot it, no problem. With enemies like Scorch or Heavy Gunners, we can one-shot, no problem with this particular build. So the initial tower build I'm showing you guys. The reason napalm take a couple shots is because they are not classified as ferrous, they are classified as alloys or corrosive. To my knowledge, doesn't do that bonus 75% against them as opposed to Heavy Gunners, which you do additional 75% on. So Heavy Gunner, level 21. I'm gonna do a headshot obviously, so there you can one shot, no problem. What we just saw there is the truce side effect of this weapon. It's a Syndicate weapon, so you do get an innate power. And what truce does is it does a 1000 AoE damage, as well as a 25% recovery of health. In addition, I believe it does a 100% stamina boost for 30 seconds, which to be fair is not that useful. From playing with this weapon, I found the recovery on health is quite useful when you're doing solo play such as this, but when you're in team play, you're usually not too worried about that, because one, you got revived, and two, you probably have a Trinity or a Necros with high level gameplay anyway. Other than that, the main reason that I don't like this weapon as much as I potentially could is because it is a projectile weapon. So not unlike the Border Prime, it does have a traveling duration, but unlike the Border Prime, it is much weaker as far as DPS goes, and it's nowhere near as ammo efficient. Of course, we are comparing a secondary to a primary weapon, so it's not that fair on the Telos Akbolto. But if you look at weapons like the Sonic Gamma Core, which is I guess only for short range gameplay, or some of the Murloc, it does seem to surpass this weapon depending on which mission type you are playing.
Diagnostic regressions.
And finally, during the last video, the Sonic Gamma Core video, I asked you guys whether you wanted me to do a mod for each faction. I explained why I try to avoid that, because there's a lot of repetition. And the response I pretty much got from people was they do agree that it's unnecessary to show a build for each faction. I do admit with the Sonic Gamma Core that wasn't the best video to prove that point, just because the Sonic Gamma Core did require a slightly different build, i.e. with the far rate mods, but the Telos Akbolto, you do mod it the exact same way as your Murlocs, your Syndicate Murloc, your Dex Furious, your Twin Wraith Vipers, so pretty much a long-ranged secondary weapon. So finally, let's put this weapon into perspective. As far as low-level gameplay goes, it's okay. It's just that projectile traveling time doesn't make it as useful at long range, but it does kill things pretty fast, pretty decently, as you can one-shot them. So I'll give it a 4 for low-level speed kill. For high-level utility, yes, it does have the damage potential, the DPS potential, but to reach that DPS potential, it does cost a lot of ammo, so it's not very ammo economic. So for that reason, it's not that feasible for your sort of 60-minute plus T4 survival. So I give it a 6. As far as AoE potential, I mean, let's face it, it doesn't really have that much AoE. Yes, you have high fire rate, so you can pretty much spray the room with bullets. So in that sense, you can go with AoE, but strictly speaking, it got no AoE or explosive damage. As far as subjective factor go, I didn't really like it that much. Yes, it has the truth innate power, which was quite helpful, especially with the AoE. It does obviously make you kill enemies a bit faster. I suppose you can count that as AoE potential, as well as a low-level speed kill benefit, but the projectile traveling time just really limited this weapon for me. It obviously have, strictly speaking, infinite range, but again, projectile traveling speed pretty much destroyed this weapon at long range. So overall, I give it a 4. Now, recently I've had a couple guys messaging me in-game saying the scores I give to weapons are way too low. Obviously, it's a scale out of 10, and I just want to explain that again. So basically, with these scores, you know, no weapon will ever reach 10. If a weapon reaches 10, you know, D will probably nerf that within the week to something like 6. Just because each weapon is usually good for a particular mission type. So if we have a weapon that's good for low level speed kills, it's probably not really good for high level and vice versa. So I just want to explain that. So a weapon with 4 is actually pretty decent. What I explained before was both warframes and weapons. If it has a score between 4 to 6, it's pretty decent. Anything above 6 would be extremely good. Anything less than 4, probably wouldn't be worth a potato in my opinion. Alright guys, so that's about it. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.